Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 29th of March to the 3rd of April. It's an early week. I'm recording on a Saturday because Sunday's going to be very busy, and Monday I'm also very busy, which is when I usually record. So this is just like a quick last-minute shift in the schedule, so you're getting Digest early. But it was okay because a lot of people put out videos on April 1st. Can't imagine why. So I still had a good amount of videos to talk about. And first for the video that I thought was not good. And I hate to buy into the memes some more. You know, this way back was like the first person I gave a not good to, really. It's another explanation point video. And this is the first time he's come back in a while. And he's talking about, can you ignore a bad second season? And he's got a couple things, you know, Promised Neverland very prominently in the thumbnail, but he's mostly talking about Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions season 2. He didn't like that second season. He wanted to write a video how much he liked the first season and things he found interesting about it, but the second season kind of reverted things and did things he didn't like. He didn't go too deep into the specifics about his problems with the second season because the focus is just purely on the metatextual idea of can I just kind of ignore that the second season exists? And do I have to kind of treat it as like a whole work kind of deal? Which, you know, is funny, and it's when the video is I like metatextual conversation like this and the kind of like a purpose of analysis and things like I like these kinds of conversations, but it's also just funny how I just realized that like the video is about this metatextual discussion, and his conclusion at the end is more like you should not take any outside context, metatextual anything when it comes to literary analysis. It should just be the work. You shouldn't. The author is dead. You shouldn't. You can do whatever you want. And he kind of goes into. He ends up kind of losing his mind a little bit. I don't know if it was an act or whatever. If he was really serious about some of the stuff. Where he's like, Ava doesn't exist. I can just watch the evened episodes of ReZero. I can ignore this one episode of Ouran High School Host Club I don't like because it has the scene of Kyoya potentially taking advantage of Haruhi, but he doesn't because he's trying to prove something. He doesn't like that episode, so he's like, can I just take that episode out and consider Ouran a masterpiece? All right, and kind of good delving into that sort of race to the bottom intellectual thing. For me, I don't see much of the point of this video. He doesn't seem to kind of get into it's like, so you are going to ignore the second season, as well as like what's so funny at one point he has like a chart of like good. It's like a good column and a bad column, and in the good column is Chunibyo season 1, and in the bad column is like season 2 and like a bunch of other random titles from the series, like the OVAs and the movie. He doesn't acknowledge that there's a movie after this. Like, I know about this because of Ian's video about Chunibyo and him defending season 2 and what it's trying to do, as well as incorporating into the movie, because that's important. Which I liked that video, and having not seen Chunibyo and I have no attachments like this is not bad, or I'm not trying to make it out to be this, but it's just like, you cannot like the second season, but why make such a big deal out of, like, I don't know. And the premise at the beginning of this is the reason he brought this up is that in one of his videos he got a lot of flack for saying that the second season of Log Horizon doesn't exist, and I guess it was supposed to be a joke, which, right, because a lot of people were like, haha, don't, if people don't like the second season of something like Black Butler, or I guess Promised Neverland is a new example, I suppose. A lot of people are kind of tongue-in-cheek, it doesn't exist, what are you talking about, kind of deal. And that was, I guess, the joke he was making. But, like, I guess he didn't, he didn't sell that joke well enough, and people legitimately were like, there is a second season, right? And he apparently seems to conflate that with you cannot like Log Horizon if you don't like season 2, which nobody I know is arguing. I don't know anyone who's arguing that. And he doesn't seem to provide any comments of like, of that. Like, that seems to be coming, like, based on the video you just made, that is that is what, like, it seems like you're inventing this person out of thin air, which I believe is I don't know, I didn't look into the definition of a straw man, but isn't that a straw man? Of, like, trying to take down an argument that doesn't exist? Isn't that I don't know. But that was a weird way to, and so that's kind of the whole idea of this, and it's the name of the video. Can you ignore a bad second season? Yeah, sure. Like, you have to kind of specify that, and I think a lot of people are going to metatextually look at your argument, look at your textual like when you're doing the analysis, people are going to be weirded out and concerned, like, why didn't you mention the second season? Or why didn't you mention this part of the book or this line or this thing as part of the text? You can't really. And so he does kind of like further go into this, like, oh, can I ignore the second season? Can I ignore an episode from Chimney season 1? And he makes up like this argument of like, oh, if the I can't mute my stand. This is annoying me. Stop. I lost the point I was making. Sorry. But I'm going to read more into my notes of like little things I thought were interesting. There's one quote that he has. Aren't value judgments something analysts aren't supposed to not do? And that got me kind of think. It's like, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a good idea to place what you should and shouldn't do with analysis, like having hard rules. I think it's more like, if you're just going to focus on the value, if you're just going to do value judgments, it's not going to be that additive to people's understanding of the thing you're talking about. This is good. This is bad. It's very like reductive in that way. So it's not like you're not supposed to do that, but there are potential consequences and advantages and disadvantages to doing value judgments like that in analysis, is what I would say to that. Not like I'm trying to paint myself as an expert or anything, but as someone who does this myself, I definitely do want to lean away from, therefore it is good, and therefore it is bad. Because it just kind of boils it down to those qualifiers. And I mean, yeah, maybe sometimes that's all that some people care about. They just want to know if the thing is good or bad, but it doesn't have them learn anything beyond that. And it might not, and that doesn't make, and the judgments like that, therefore can't be used as lessons that apply to other series and further their appreciation of the medium as a whole. You know what I mean? That would be what I'd say to that. That was just something that was, and at least this is, I mean, I don't necessarily like the way this video came out, and I'm not really behind his visual presentation of this. I mean, I mentioned this because it's not, ugh. I mean, it kind of got me the heebie-jeebies a little bit of, you know how he uses a visual for every little bit that he says, and he's, and that's kind of his engaging thing. He uses the hiragana no as if to visualize him saying no, which really like crossed a wire in my because like no is obviously a lot of things. It's a letter in the Japanese language, but a lot of the time you see no as like a conjunction. I think basically as a conjunction. So it was like using a conjunction as a negative, as a negative set. It was like, it was like 2 + 3 = 1. It was like, no, that was just something that really rattled me. So it's like, I never really, his visual style still didn't really do much for me here. And the general argument that was going on here is just, there was a lot of specific points I'm like, no, or like weird things like that I had problems with. But at least it's a conversation. At least it's something that's kind of, it's not like vapid innocuous, like what the fuck is the point of this, I mean, some people might make that right, but you know, because at the end it feels like it doesn't feel very conclusive. I think it seems like his implication, his conclusion is, yes, you should be able to ignore a second season, but then he's very uncommitted. And I actually think he says at the end where he's like, this is the first time I'm making a video where I do not know if I'm right, something like that, which is like, okay. I mean, I don't know why with the point of a video if it's like, I'm right, therefore I'm making this video. You know, it's because a lot of it's people's opinion, right? I'm not making I'm not to assign my reasons for making videos onto you, but like, I don't know very many people is like, I'm making this video because I know I'm right. I mean, I guess Mr. Cynical kind of has that mentality sometimes, right? But it's very rare. I don't know. It's just kind of a weirdly misplaced reason to make videos, I guess. I'm just thinking about that. Not necessarily that he does make videos for that reason, but yeah, he doesn't quite know if he's right because he doesn't land on an answer, because at first he's like, yes, you should be able to ignore these stuff, and you should be able to ignore the author and ignore the context and the studio that made it and the history behind it, and you can ignore all of that, and you can make your judgment calls on, you know, and make your literary analysis. When, by the way, this is not literature that you're judging here. This is an anime. It's a visual medium. There are way more other things than the story and characters, by the way. Anyway, you know, and people can have their, yeah, I disagree, but I do agree to a point where I don't want to be like, the reason I didn't like Utena was because I didn't read the director's commentaries where he explains everything. Like, I want to be the show to be able to be make me enjoy it. I love the movie. And I always fall back on this argument, this particular show, all the time, because it sticks in my mind so much. But yeah, you know, at one hand, I'm on your side where it's like I shouldn't necessarily need to seek out the director's commentaries and the context and all that. But you are missing out on kind of the larger picture, and I think a lot of your, I mean, it's very evident when, like, you clearly didn't watch the Chunibyo movie. You don't seem to know it exists, besides the putting it on this graphic of all the other stray OVAs, and I think you just made an assumption that it wasn't going to change your mind or anything. Okay, sure. That was weird. There's one bit that I kind of want to go hard on you for a little bit, which was just like, are you kidding? So, and I want to read this off because I can, on Mal, and I know this is Mal because of the way that the text is, like, that's a Mal screenshot. He shows off the producers listed under the first season of Chunibyo and the second season of Chunibyo, and he notices that Pony Cannon, Rakunosha, and Animation Do are missing from the season 2 list compared to season 1. So he openly says he's not going to do any research because it's mostly a hypothetical that he's trying to say, is like, for the sake of his argument here. Basically, he's taking the producers and he's like, the second season was made by totally different people. But the fact is that, and he says this, but the fact is that after he says, like, oh, this is a hypothetical, I'm not going to do any research, I don't know if this is actually the case, but he says, but the fact is that Chunibyo season 1 was made by a different group of people than season 2. Some of the influences that were present in the first season are absent in the second. Can I ignore it now? And that's his hypothetical. It's like, say they were made by different people, can I ignore it now? But then, like, he does make the assertion that Chunibyo season 2 is made by different people. With later also mentioning how the second season is adapting the second light novel that the author wrote. First of all, it's canon, but second of all, it's not hard to look at the staff list. The writer, the series composition, the director, the student, the people who made it, the first season and the second season. Like, sure, there's probably a couple different. I didn't look myself because that's not the point. The point is you looked at the producers and said, they're made by different people. No, that is not how it works. That's just not how it works. How is anyone supposed to take you seriously if you make an argument like this? How? How? I don't usually like gotcha or whatever with Digest or whatever, but like, are you kidding me? You're gonna say that Pony Cannon, Rokinosha, and Animation Do are missing from season 2, and therefore they're made by different people. Different people. What? What? Okay. You know, and that it's all right. All right. All right. You know, like, come on, man. All right, fine. Yeah, no. What the hell? That's not how it works. Just gonna say that. You can look at the individual people, the people who made both, and maybe they're different. Maybe that is the case, and you can make an assumption on that. Sure. Regardless of the fact that they're adapting a light novel. Fine. Anyway. Yeah, I guess that was pretty much it. Yeah, I guess that was a video. Sure. I mean, I think that the conversation starter is interesting. But the way this went about it was very infuriating to me. Yeah, you know, not very good in my opinion. Oh well. Oh, and for what it's worth, I have enjoyed several of your other videos, and in case Expo happens to just see this one in isolation, I have seen your other videos, and a lot of them I didn't like, but the one frame analysis was great, and then your follow up to that was really great. I liked those 2 videos. Just saying. Right. Now for a video that was a request video from Kuiper. Wanted me to talk about KHANTEHNT. And it's their Eva discussion. Getting in the Robot. Evangelion episodes 1 through 5. I listened to this as I did errands, and that was really great. So it was like the first thing it was like, this is a great decision on my part. Anyway, so yeah, this is an hour-long discussion on just the first 5 episodes, but Evangelion as a whole. But I was very happy that because they were able to limit it to just the first 5 episodes, they're not really going into all the craziness that the end of Evangelion is, or the end, like the latter half of the series. That I think that takes up the bulk of people's conversation when it comes to Evangelion. I really liked how refreshing and modest this conversation was, of the appreciating how the details were here, the characters early on, and appreciating why they're doing what they're doing, and the basic nuts and bolts of the show and why people really appreciate it. I really like Nate's perspective of having not seen Evangelion in 10 years, and how this was like before, he says a quote, before developing a brain. So he's rewatching it with kind of a newfound appreciation. And not like, he was definitely appreciating it over having seen a lot of analysis videos after having seen it a while ago. But this is his first rewatch after, and coming into it with a much more open mind and more of assuming it's like, oh yeah, I have an idea that this stuff is really good, and he was able to really appreciate it, and all the little details they're talking about, and you know, they're talking about scenes that like very few Evangelion analysis channels even cover, because the other stuff later on with his psychoanalysis and the end and everything is always so much more interesting. It always takes up the volume of conversation. That was the biggest takeaway I had from this video, was how refreshing it was for them to talk about individual scenes from the early episodes, the actual production behind this. I like that Trixie was talking about Sete and the Christian symbols, and they're not completely dismissing the symbolism here, but it's more like this is where Anna was coming from, and there's just a lot of details here that just makes the experience more interesting. It's kind of regardless of whether you're reading into it or you're not supposed to read anything into it. The fact that it's there, and it's a very rich world that is fully realized. I really like Nate's comment of, I want to spend as much time here as possible, because this world feels so realized and so rich and detailed, regardless of what all those details mean. I'm very similar in the same frame of mind as Cowboy Bebop, where, you know, they're not necessarily, I don't know anyone that really goes into Cowboy Bebop with great world building. Like, that's not really a compliment that gets layered on there that much, but I was always taken aback how rich and detailed the settings were, and how lived in everything felt. And it feels like a show that I want to, like, be immersed in for a long time. Similar to what Nate was saying here, I think. Which I totally agree, and I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much else to say about it. It's a really great conversation. I'm not sure if their subscribe star is where the rest of it's going to go, or they're just stretching out for a long time. But that's, either way is cool. Yeah, I just really liked this conversation. It's very down to earth, not very the way Evangelion conversations usually are. And I like that they also address that, where they kind of contrast what the show actually is versus the discourse around it. I'm very similar. It got me a lot of vibes with Legend of the Galactic Heroes, where it's touted as the pinnacle of the medium, well, blah blah blah, but it's actually a very modest show, and the vibe is a lot different. But there's certain things that attract this type of people that make these grand statements about it, or really tout it as the pinnacle kind of deal. Which is something that I would like to explore a lot once I've rewatched it myself. Later, don't want to promise videos and stuff. But yeah, this was a really great video. Thank you for recommending it to me, Kuiper. Okay, and now for some videos that I thought were decent. They're pretty good. And the first one's from Netflix Anime. It's a reaction video, but it's interesting. It's kind of good. Yeah, I thought. AniTubers and real cats watch A Whisker Away. By the way, there's not enough real cats. I get that. I think the meme was like they're just gonna get footage of the cat, but it wasn't enough. I don't know. I feel like they could have done more with the cats, but I like the gimmick they're going for here. But they're reacting to A Whisker Away, and I like the selection of scenes and how the scene kind of plays out. It doesn't like repeat the scene too much. It's so like my frame of reference when it comes to these group reaction videos would be Fine Brothers. They're the ones that really pushed this, in terms of a communal reaction video, and not necessarily one person reacting to it. It's more of a multiple. It's a patchwork of reactions, and so a lot of it comes down to the edit and how this is framed all together. But for one thing, it's like all of the shots are varied. They are all in their different environments, which is really interesting. And the commentary, like each of them have different commentary and stuff. But I really like, and it's important to get subtitles. They don't have them on the video itself, which was weird. Like they're playing Whisker Away, which is sub only, but there are no subs on the video, like for the anime specifically, so you don't know what they're saying, kind of deal. But not like they're trying to. It's usually they're kind of reacting to the visuals themselves. Like you can kind of tell what's going on without the subtitles. But there's some YouTubers here that are not English speaking. One of them is Spanish, I think, and one of them is Japanese. And that's great. I love that. Did not know about those creators, and I was happy to see that. Although they don't have subs either, so you have to actually put on the manual closed captions on the video, and then I don't know if they actually had that notified in the video itself of like, oh, by the way, there are closed captions available. Not like they'd add it, or but that's just one thing to take away from it, is like they didn't quite do that. But that's okay. Yeah, within the edit, I think I like all the different environments they're in. The commentary was really kind of funny and up, supportive of the movie. Like I get it. Like, you're not going to be kind of like shitting on this movie that's on Netflix, right? It's one of their properties. So this is a form of promotion. 100%. It's an ad, pretty much. But I like how kind of quirky and well made it is. I really like it, actually. And despite the kind of the transparent, obviously not going to say anything negative about the movie. I thought it was supportive and like kind of gets you to want to watch this movie, which I think is great because like Whisker Away it's not a very popular title, all things considered, and yeah, I think that's cool. Getting this stuff out there is neat. I thought it was a fun video. I liked it. The first of a couple April Fool's videos from Bob. First one from BobSamurai. Why was this unreleased Dragon Ball dub canceled? And I liked. I had seen a couple of the April Fool videos that came out that day, or like I put on my watch later, but only a few of them kind of I was able to make it through the whole thing because I don't necessarily vibe with the kind of fakeness and tongue-in-cheek of April Fool's things. I would want something to be a little more creative, might be genuine, or just something that's kind of like unique, I guess. You could, I don't know, just a straight up like manipulation line, just kind of go April Fool's kind of deal. It just seems a little lazy to me. So I really liked this Bob video because the majority of it, for two reasons. The first is the majority of it is clips from either an episode or an OVA of Dragon Ball. I think it's from the show. But it's from the original series because you have like Pilaf and other things. But but he's like dubbing it, and he manipulates the voice, and you could barely tell it's him, which is great. Doing all different voices, and it's supposed to be kind of just a bad cheap dub kind of thing. And I feel like the video could have been more beat up and look more like a VHS than just like the VHS overlay on top of it. I feel like you could have done a little more with like making it a little fuzzy or stuttery a little. I don't know. There could have been other things to do with that maybe, but the audio was very on point in terms of like cheeky poor quality kind of thing. But you can still, I like that he added the subtitles to it, so you know what the this crazy dub saying. Obviously it's very wrong, over the top and cheesy and everything. But that was very creative. And I also really liked that Bob seemed to collab with a YouTuber who mostly does Dragon Ball content. And she's like kind of like, I found this weird VHS, and she's kind of setting up the story kind of deal, and this crazy VHS Dragon Balls and hidden nuggets. I don't know, but it was just really playful and fun, and I like that he collabed with another YouTuber. It's good to see that from him as someone who's like, it doesn't it keeps sort of isolated in his own space sort of deal. Seeing him collab in places is really great, and I like the creativity here. So I liked the video. It was good. I also checked out an animebackwhen video, the Vampire Hunter D experience, and I wasn't going to talk about it at first because it seems like a lot of his other content, where it's a general review of Vampire Hunter D, but I particularly like how the video seemed to end at like 3 minutes 52 seconds, which is around the time where he usually finishes it. His videos are very, very short. He almost never goes over like 5 minutes in a video for a lot of the reviews of this style. It's very traditional of his style. But like if the video was ending, like kind of typical to his thing, but it was only halfway through. And I'm like, wait, what's the other half then? And he comes on camera and it has a new setup and it looks good for the record. Compared to his other previous attempts with having a camera and stuff, I think this one is the best it has looked yet. But I'm mentioning it because I really like using both of those styles of his, and kind of doing a double review, one that's like scripted and traditional, and another that's like off the cuff and casual. And what did you think of the review, and his history with getting the DVD and things like that. Kind of playing both of his strengths, or both of the things that he's working on with content, and putting them together, and not in a weird integrated mesh way, but in sort of a half and half kind of thing. And I've never really seen anyone do that specifically, and I think that was kind of cool. Just wanted to shout that out as something I liked. I could take it or leave it with the review itself. It's just a review of Vampire Hunter D, and it seems serviceable enough. But that was kind of the thing that was like, oh, that was kind of interesting. So another April Fool's joke I saw was Totally Not Mark's Keijo review, a secret shonen masterpiece. And I like Keijo a lot, and I'm not trying to be ironic about it. And I was worried going into this video that it was just going to be kind of like cheeky, ironic kind of thing. And apparently, like, it's a script that somebody else wrote, and he's just kind of performing it. But for the most part, I kind of liked the structure he went with, that it wasn't totally bashing on it, and he was obviously gassing it up to a ridiculous, ironic, hyperbolic degree. But I do like the amount of detail he actually went into it, and it looked like he had actually watched the show, or whoever was writing it, basically. And also imported the manga, I guess, and he had like a physical copy. I don't know if that was fake or nothing, but that was kind of neat. It just showed that there was a degree of effort here, and they're not just kind of poking fun and making fun of the show in that way, because it's like, I don't like when people do that. It's, you know, not just because of it's a show that I actually like, but because I don't think any show really deserves that kind of ridicule necessarily, even the ones that are like so bad or whatever. That's just not my kind of content. So I'm happy that this didn't feel over ironic, I suppose. But the end of it, I mean, it was getting to that little conspiratorial, too weird. Like, he suddenly talks about this porn or whatever, I guess, of like this lemon thing. It's completely nothing to do with Keijo. I feel like it kind of went off the rails there, and it was sort of a weird conspiratorial, haha. Why does no one in Keijo seem to know what sex is, or kind of having that feeling, or I don't know. There was a weird thing about it towards the end that I wasn't a big fan of, but I liked the structure where it's like he was giving details, plot summary. I guess it's, you know, it is basic plot summary. It's not the most innovative thing in the world, but for this kind of video, I think it works. And it was fine. I actually did come away liking it for the most part. I'm checking out Oceaniz video. Okay, but what even is a rivalry? And this is not April Fool's joke, I don't think. But I think it's more like, it seems like a real shift in content kind of deal. It's mostly a one take live, you know, him filming himself in front of a wall, and it's kind of like a teacher, like little lecture-y thing. He seems like, you know, very in the college mood and talking like a lecture, kind of like, what does rivalry come from? It comes from this word, and he's talking. It reminded me a lot about Theta, about Nearly on Red, the way he presents his content a lot as like a professor of sorts. I did like that. It was impressive also that a lot of this seemed very one take, and well done for someone that like hasn't been on camera to my knowledge. I mean, like, it has been on camera before, but it's not like a regular thing of his content, you know? I was surprised at how articulate he was able to be with the script without, like, I don't even know if there was a script. Like, he didn't seem like he was reading off of one, which is cool. Not like that's an awful bad thing, right? But like, that's interesting. He was able to go with that. The content itself is cool. I think I do kind of wish that he did actually talk about sports rivalries, because that is kind of where they all come from, and the reason shonen, battle shonen does them, in my opinion. I think a lot of character tropes and dynamics stem from the old classic sports stuff, and I know maybe he's just not read up on them, and that's fine. I don't think any of us are read up on Kyoji no Hoshi, which is, you know, important, but none of us really see it because it's not translated to my knowledge. And the anime definitely isn't, but the manga I don't believe is as well, but I might be wrong about that. But it's not available, you know. So it's like, I completely understand that we can't really get a comprehensive thing of that aspect of history when it comes to Shonen Jump and its history with rivals and stuff. But, you know, I do think there's a metatextual thing to be said about all the Jump authors really do take inspiration from other Jump authors, and there's a lineage, and there's you know, riding waves of what's popular. Like, it's like, okay, like Dragon Ball's doing this tournament arc, they seem to really like tournament arcs, so let's do a tournament thing. Or they see the appeals and they go, wow, this is narratively really interesting, I could do that with my series, or something, you know, stuff like that. And I like to think of it as kind of a building. Like, they're really building on top of each other, and not taking from each other so much as just like, this element's really cool, what if it was like this, or what if I twist it in this way, or call back, or even just call back to it, maybe not even reinvent the wheel, and just be like, you know, this is just the thing that's has worked this time, so it can work this time, to whatever degree and effect that is. I feel like Oceans could have delved into that a little more for me personally, because I think there's something to be said about it. But the bare bones stuff of like these particular ones of what's making a toxic rivalry versus not a toxic rivalry is interesting, and there's more examples I think that could have been pulled, basically. But you know, this is coming from someone that had an idea about a rivalry video, but it would have been way too bloated and unfocused personally. So I think that the brevity here is good, and and the focus here. And the style was really great too. Actually, I was like, wow, that was really cool to see from this particular kind of video from you. I liked it. I think if you want to keep going with it, I think it'd be cool. All right, now, but I thought were the best videos of the week. Ones I was like, woo, wow, nice. The first one's from Funebure. It's a, I guess it's an April Fool's thing, but it's sort of anti-April Fool's. I don't know. There's just something really that seems very genuine coming from this. It's called The Only Truth You'll Find, and first of all, it's a really cool. There's a really cool KYDB cameo in this. He's on like the radio or something. It's like a DJ, is like an intern for the main guy. But the video itself is a mood piece, it seems, to me at least. It starts very chaotic and crazy and weird and really interestingly edited. I don't know if that's right the word, but it's very polished and like the kind of like, to the extent that the Funebure is able to bring here, it's his style is really incredible, and imaginative and interesting and crazy. But it's very chaotic at the very beginning, and then it cuts to this like outdoor shot, and it mostly stays on that outdoor shot the entire time. And then it's a lot of cryptic passages and words, but then the second half is pretty much the same rolling shot. It's the, occasionally a little animated figure here, but then it's just the atmosphere. It's a mood piece, and it's just using this particular song that I don't think he's using. I don't think he added any sound effects, because there's like birds chirping and thunder and stuff. But I looked up the original track because I thought, I was like, oh, did he add those into post? And they're in the track, they're in the song that he used. So it was like, okay, yeah. So that's just kind of like adding to that particular song. But I really liked it, and it made me be kind of like, man, you really don't have to keep the audience moving. You don't have to keep doing all this different stuff and to keep the audience invested. I think if you set a particular mood, that'll work for people. And I really needed that as a creator right now. In terms of the video that I'm hopefully working on, I'm very lost in terms of how to properly visualize what I'm talking about, because it's not about a particular show or anything like that. It's sort of a metatextual subject that's very multifaceted and crap, and I'm worried about making it a compelling video in terms of the visuals and that are up to my standards personally. But this was like kind of a good thing for me to, oh yeah, you can just kind of good choice of music and a good, really interesting kind of visual, and just has something to ruminate on. And granted, it's only 3 minutes, versus like a big video or something, but I think this was really good. And this was surprising to see from him in general. I really, really liked it. It was great. I liked this video from AlexEnterprises talking about the McDonald's anime, the commercials, because it's not just about the commercials. It's about the One Piece ramen commercials and other commercials just in general. It felt a lot like a core video, actually, where they were just talking more about an idea and showing a lot of different stuff, and basically an encouragement for exploration was what I felt with this video, and I thought that was really great. I get it, he's saying this is sort of a tongue-in-cheek April Fool's kind of video, like haha, the McDonald's anime. But he really talks about it earnestly, and the other things earnestly, and not in a tongue-in-cheek way. I think he felt very genuine, and I like the mood. I really like the music choice being used here, and generally how, like, you're not clowning on it at all. It's sort of a celebration, of this facet of anime production, where there's so many of these really beautiful commercials and stuff. I thought it was great. It's very simple, a simple kind of video. I don't have too much else to say about it, but it really made me feel good, and I really liked it, man. I really liked the vibes here in general. I thought it was awesome. It was a video that I was recommended from the Mercurial Man, talking about Nietzsche and Hajime no Ippo, To Be Strong. And I gotta say, at first I was not quite on board with watching this video, because it's long, 20 minutes, relatively long, And I don't know much about Nietzsche, but talking about philosophy on YouTube can very often seem very indulgent, and you kind of lose the audience very easily, or at least like lose the captivation of the audience. It's like, yeah, I guess that's interesting, but like, I think it can go a little too indulgent and over the, too much for me personally. And I'm a little cynical about EPO as a series. Just the fact that it's still going on and on and on and on. And I'd only gone to through the anime, and it never really ended. And obviously, it's colored completely by my respect and Joe being my favorite anime. As another as a kind of the contrasting boxing series. And I made a video about EPO as well. But like overall, I thought this video was fantastic in terms of its script. Visually, I will say that like there was a lot of missed opportunity for some really captivating, beautiful editing that, I think is just beyond the scope of the individual. But like even very simple things in terms of the zooming and the panning. There was one panel where it's a horizontal panel like this, and they're zooming out. So you're able to kind of see these speech bubbles, but not these. But this is the first one that he's quoting the panel. So this is the first one, but it doesn't get on screen until after he's finished saying it. So it's usually like for us editors and stuff, you would show the whole panel, and if you want to go a little above and beyond, you kind of like make all the bubbles white, and then you show the text as they're saying it, kind of like as a captivating way of editing. So like manga editing in general, I mean, it takes a lot of effort, but even little things in terms of the panning and showing you the whole panel and little things like that could have been better. But there was like the music choice, and he used a particular track. What was it called? The Moon. I used it in my I used I forget it. Clair de Lune. That's it. Thank you, brain. Thanks for embarrassing me. And then after I finally get it, Clair de Lune, like using that track and other things like that. Also, but like he doesn't seem to be using the anime footage that much. He's like using GIFs from the anime footage, and some of it can look very jank, and various art like that. But so like the visual is really not the selling point of this video, in my opinion. I would say that the script is just that good in terms of keeping my attention, the delivery of that script being very neutral and doesn't seem to be leaning one way or the other, or trying to be like overly passionate or kind of caught up in all of it. Both the writing and the delivery, it seems very clear focused. Don't let emotions kind of get to you in terms of, because like some of the stuff he's talking about is very moving as someone, and talking about the concepts of overman, the slave, what was the other one? The other defeated the slave, and there was the guy who just like wants complete comfort, kind of, I forget the name. Comfort Man or something, I don't know. And he's introducing a lot of these concepts at you: the lion, the dragon, like especially towards the end. But by that point, you're really on his side, I think. And he's not trying to like sell you like Nietzsche's a brilliant whatever. It really comes across as like I don't know, it just really earnest and natural and informative and engaging in that way, very straightforward. I thought that clear-head, like very focused script and delivery and general audio in that was fantastic. It really sound like I was thinking it's like, oh, I'd probably put it in decent because like the visuals could be a lot better, but I was thinking it's like, the script and the audio are that good that it really pulls it through as something that was one of the best things I saw this week. And again, I'm not like a big Nietzsche or whatever, but like this was really the first time I was like, wow, these concepts are so interesting. It's like, oh, I've always felt like the mentality of the slave or the sedentary man, and my relationship with being the overman and these other things. And his relationship with Ebo was great. And I like that one of the big things that make it frustrating for me to discuss EPO in any capacity is that it's still going. And it's been going for decades, and we don't know how long it's going to go. But I really like the way that he handled it here, where It was just like, look, we don't know if he's ever going to come back to boxing, but I hope he does for this and this, and this is kind of where he really seems to get Ippo as a character, as well as Takamura and Mashiba, etc., etc. And his connections with Ippo as the camel, the concept of a camel with Nietzsche and everything, was so smart. And I was like, that totally makes sense, and it makes me appreciate the series a lot more, as someone who's very cynical towards it. And it really actually made me want to read Ippo. Like, I'll admit, I watched the whole anime, got a little bit into the manga, and then just kind of like, I was like, it's just more boxing, it's just more blah blah blah, so like I'm caught up in terms of like knowing what's going on, because I see other people, I kind of peek the latest chapter or whatever, but like I haven't read the whole thing. I'll be honest about that. But this really just makes me like okay, no, I actually should. I actually should, and probably reread the whole thing. But like again, I don't want to get caught up and then just wait with everybody else. So I'm in a position where I'm like, I still need to wait for it to be finished, and then I want to read the whole thing and be like, yeah, that was great. That's what I would like. I think that's another reason why Joe, I think, really outshines it for me, is that it is a complete story, beginning, middle, end. Yeah. Anyway, great video, seriously. I really recommend it. It was great. And the last video brought me a lot of joy because this was a former patron, and I did not know they made videos. And this was they didn't quite get this in time for Novid. This came out on the 29th of March, and Novid was, November. But this is about Vicky the Viking from Dojee. Vicky the Viking is a show that exists. It's a very non-committal title, and, the thumbnail's not much of anything in particular. But man, this really, really knocks it out of the park for me. This is the kind of content I want. Like, this is just the content I love and want to make myself, and you just get, it's just great because he's introducing the show I have never heard of. I did not know about this. One Piece fans apparently know about this show because it's the show that Oda one of the few works that Oda cites as an influence to One Piece. Is like, this is what got me interested in pirates, is this Viking show from the 70s, that's based on like a German bunch of novels and stuff. It looks great. I don't know about it aging necessarily. I thought the art design is really colorful and imaginative. And it doesn't look all that like Japanese in that, not like that would be a negative at all. I'm not trying to say that. But it just kind of has its own unique style that was just really interesting. I think it looks good. It doesn't seem like the most of any of it is subbed, but a lot of it seems to be in, I guess, is it German or is it in English? I don't quite know. I just kind of forgotten the details a little bit, but like Dojee really covers the whole thing in terms of what he likes about the show, and why you should care about I really like that he was very transparent. It's like, why am I talking about this show that no one's seen and can't even watch or whatever? And he's like, look, it's referenced in Vinland Saga. They're like right there in like, and there's like a scene in the show of Vicky kind of emerging from a barrel of like, that was a nice nap or whatever. And that is referenced very explicitly both in Vinland Saga and in One Piece. So like Luffy popping out of the barrel is a fucking Vicky the Viking reference. Like, that's so cool. And I really appreciate Dojee's like, this is why I care about this, because and he's like referencing my Girl in Lockdown video, which is really cool. So I'm happy like my video was able to like hopefully kind of push to make this something like this exist, because I think it's excellent. I really like that he went out of his way to give, here's some episodes that I like. That was great. He's not really like doing a lot of inventive, like amazing, cool stuff. It's just hitting the exact sweet spot that I like. Like, this is content for me kind of deal. That's a square, like, yes, show I haven't heard of. Now I know more about. Now it's on my radar. Now it's on my plan to watch. Now I know that much more about this medium as a whole. Like a little contribution like this, it's like excellent. And it just hit the sweet spot for me perfect. I was just like, yes, absolutely. And the show looks great. Yeah, I thought it was great. It's excellent video. Thank you so much for making that. Oh, I was gonna. I should have. Sorry. I was gonna say that Dojee. I think I was thinking, reflecting on it. That was probably my favorite Novid video, in terms of like all this isn't technically Novid, but it was made for Novid, and I was thinking about it, and it was like, yeah, that was all of them. That was really great. That was like my favorite Novid video, I thought. Yeah, excellent. Sorry, I just wanted to add that. And that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to my patrons, including Austin, Boo, Kuiper, My Anime Pod, Najbeb, Nicholas, Saxon, Unique Nameosaurus, Victor, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.